Hello, everybody. Welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Hannah. I'm an IFBB pro bodybuilder, and on this channel, we talk about all things PEDs and bodybuilding and that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, stick around. Now, I'm not going to be getting into my full steroid history. I have another video on that if you're interested. But for this video, all you need to know is that I took steroids for years to get as big as I possibly could. Now, I knew that there would be some side effects. My voice changed almost immediately, and that didn't really surprise me. But what I'm talking about today is a side effect that I had no idea steroids could cause. And after going through it, I realized a lot of people don't realize that it can be a side effect from steroid use. What I'm talking about is cystitis. I made a post a couple weeks ago telling you guys that I'm officially healed from my year-long battle with cystitis, so this video is going to be going over my history. What is cystitis? Cystitis is inflammation of the bladder, usually caused by irritation or infection or disruption of the tissue that protects the bladder wall. Most people associate cystitis with a common UTI, but it's not always caused by bacteria. It can happen when the bladder lining becomes irritated, inflamed, or damaged in some type of way. I first started to notice something was not quite right in the middle of my prep for my pro card. And again, if you're curious as to what exactly I was taking at this time, I have another video that I'll link. My first indicator that something wasn't quite right was I would wake up with this sharp feeling in my bladder, but it was so minor and it would go away after a couple minutes and didn't really happen very often that I kind of brushed it off. But I mentally noted it because it's not something that I had experienced before. But of course, I was in prep mode, so I ignored it. Fast forward to the night I got my pro card, and like most bodybuilders do, I went to eat and ate everything. I actually went to Olive Garden and ate an embarrassing amount of ravioli. But that night I developed a UTI. It was maybe the third one in my whole life, but I wasn't surprised because we did have to drop water for me to make weight at that show. And also I had just binged on a bunch of sugar basically, so I didn't really think much of it. And I have such a low tolerance to bladder pain that I actually ended up going to the ER that night, even though I had photo shoots starting at 8 a.m. the next morning, going all day. But I did spend most of that night in the ER. They did confirm it was just a regular UTI, gave me some antibiotics, and then sent me home. Fast forward again, and I'm training for my pro debut. So I'm pushing more compounds. I start getting more UTI pain. I go to my doctor, but this time it comes back as no infection. This ends up being a reoccurring theme where I would have pain. I would go to my doctor and it would come up as, sometimes it would come up as a UTI and then sometimes it wouldn't, and they couldn't figure it out. But either way, it was very painful, and this went on for about 6 months. And the only time I really wasn't in pain was when I was on antibiotics, which I know now is because antibiotics are actually a pretty strong anti-inflammatory. And again, this went on for 6 months almost, and was an absolute miserable time in my life because it affected every aspect of it. I was also dealing with some other personal things at the time, so this pain on top of it made it a pretty difficult time. So during all this, I went to my OB. I got tested for probably every bacteria and everything that they could test me there for. They couldn't find anything wrong, except I was getting UTIs really easily for some reason, which up until that point, I'd only had about 3 in my life, so this was not normal for me. I was doing everything I could to figure it out, but it possibly being related to steroids didn't cross my mind. Because when I thought of steroid-related side effects, I thought like the voice, the hair, all the things that you normally associate with it. After about my 4th or 5th UTI, my doctor finally sent me to a specialist, which, by the way, I've always been fully transparent with my doctors about my steroid use. That's not to say I ever expected them to figure it out or know what to do, but I'm just noting that I've never lied about it to them. My first appointment with the urologist was in February, and I immediately told him all the information that I had. And he brought up the fact that steroids could be a cause, but that we were going to take all precautions and not assume anything and rule out all other possibilities before we came to that conclusion. And that meant a scope, which is basically what it sounds like. They stick a camera in your bladder and look around. It's not pleasant. along with CT scans of my kidneys. But on that day, I decided to get off all anabolic steroids cold turkey because at that point, I was willing to do anything to be out of pain. The scope was normal, it didn't find anything, but the CT scans showed bladder wall thickening and bilateral, I'm gonna mess this up,
hydronephrosis.
Bilateral hydronephrosis occurs when urine is unable to drain from the kidneys into the bladder. Hydronephrosis itself is not a disease. It occurs as a result of a problem that prevents urine from draining out of the kidneys and into the bladder. Basically, my bladder and my kidneys were extremely pissed off and not able to drain properly, which was causing me to have reoccurring infections despite all the precautions that I was taking, which was a lot. Hydronephrosis is typically caused by blockage, but I did not have a block. So why did I have so much inflammation? I had crashed my estrogen several times during prep and off season. So let's break this down. Most anabolic steroids either directly or indirectly suppress your natural estrogen. And estrogen is critical for healthy vaginal tissue, smooth, healthy bladder lining, preventing bacteria from attaching to tissue. And when estrogen drops, tissue can become thinner, it can lose elasticity, and you're more prone to micro tears. Your immune system can also take a hit on heavy cycles, so your body is less capable of fighting off irritation or bacteria. Estrogen at healthy levels helps tissue to regenerate, heal, and maintain thickness. And when estrogen is suppressed for months, healing slows, micro tears don't repair normally, mucosal layers stay thin and damaged, the bladder lining becomes fragile, basically. So short answer, my doctor and I believed that my steroid use led to my estrogen being crashed and all of the above. And I'll insert some of my labs here so you guys can see just how low it was. And by the way, before I move on, because I know there's a lot of men that also watch my channel, yes, this can absolutely affect men too, just in a different way. Men don't have the same estrogen-dependent tissues that women do, so the mechanisms look a little different. But steroids can cause similar problems in men as well, in the forms of prostate enlargement, which is a huge factor with a lot of men that take steroids. An enlarged prostate can obstruct urine flow, cause incomplete bladder emptying, increase urinary frequency, create pressure or pain, and raise the risk of infection. And men do need estrogen for tissue repair, immune health, urethral lubrication, and bladder lining protection. And just like in women, when a man suppresses his estrogen too aggressively through high doses of gear or AI misuse, the tissue can become dry, irritated, urethra can become more sensitive, burning during urination increases, UTIs become more likely, and it can also cause pelvic floor tension. I personally have both male and female friends who have experienced cystitis from steroid use, as well as tons of people online that have reached out to me about it since my first video. So to kind of recap on that, for both men and women, it's usually more than one mechanism. It's a combination of low estrogen, disrupted microbiome, thin or unprotected tissue, inflammation, and immune suppression. And this is why the pain from cystitis can feel identical to UTI, even when cultures are negative. So how did I fix this? And as a disclaimer, this is not medical advice. If you're experiencing any of these symptoms, you should definitely go to your doctor. But this was just my experience. Well, the obvious was to get off all anabolic steroids, which I did. But that was not a quick fix. It does take time for hormones to adjust, and even more time for your body to start then repairing. My doctor also put me on estrogen cream to get a jump start on things, as well as a low-dose preventative antibiotic. I also cut out most caffeine and all spicy food. Actually, tomatoes seem to be the worst offenders when it came to triggering pain. I also did my best to get good sleep and rest because if I didn't, it would spike inflammation and I would be in a lot of pain. And it took a good 6 months of me being off all anabolic steroids and a good 3 months of me being on the estrogen to start having some pain relief. Then in August, I had another CT scan done, which showed improvement. My left kidney no longer had hydronephrosis, but my right kidney still did. And I'll show you guys my scans down here. So I continued with everything except my doctor did take me off of estrogen at this time because my labs came back normal, and he did not want me on estrogen long term. As a side note, I do want to add that I was on HRT, which was doctor prescribed testosterone the whole time, except for 1 month that I came off. But I got back on because I started experiencing some serious depression, but my hormones were able to balance. Fast forward to now, and my last scan showed no kidney swelling or bladder thickness at all. Everything looked great, and I don't remember the last time I had pain. I'll show you guys my scans here. I'm very proud of them. So now I feel completely back to normal, but I also feel incredibly lucky that things weren't worse. Since talking about my story, I've had a lot of people approach me with the same issues. I mentioned cystitis in my first video, and I got so many people sharing their stories with me. Most of them, like myself, not making the connection between steroids and cystitis until watching my video. So, having said that, what I wish I knew earlier. Number one is women need estrogen more than they realize. In the bodybuilding industry, it's really common for coaches to suppress estrogen through AIs and demonize estrogen and say you'll never get in shape and you'll never get show lean if you have too high estrogen. And that is just so dangerous. A lot of coaches will crash their athletes' estrogen in order to make them shredded and lean and as tight as possible. And there's so many issues with that. 2 is steroids disrupt far more than your hair and your voice, some things you can't see. Inflammation is a real side effect. Number 3 is doctors are not trained in PED side effects. So that is another risk to think about when you take this stuff on. Steroid-induced cystitis is real, and it happens pretty often. I would have taken the early signs more seriously, and I would have understood the hormonal aspect way sooner. So if you think this is something that you're currently dealing with right now, or that you think you're at risk for it, what can you do? And again, this is not medical advice, but this is what I would do if I had to do it over. If you're currently having issues, 1, get off all anabolic steroids immediately. 2 is try to cut out all caffeine and spicy foods / acidic foods. I noticed significantly more pain when I would eat things like tomatoes or drink a bunch of coffee. Diet really does affect this, and that's due to the inflammation. Number 3 is try to get good sleep and minimize inflammation. Number 4, and of course, always ask your doctor before taking something new, but a supplement I noticed really helped me was something called slippery elm, and then eating turmeric with black pepper in my food seemed to cut down on a lot of the pain. Number 5 is try to get in with a knowledgeable doctor, because other underlying issues can cause the same symptoms as cystitis, so you want to take all necessary measures like my doctor did to rule out anything else. It's also important to get on a preventative antibiotic since your kidneys are not protecting you. If you absolutely cannot get in with a doctor, I get it, times are tough right now. My insurance is going up to over $700 a month next year, so I get it. And again, this is not medical advice, but there is a supplement called D-mannose that works really well at preventing infections if it's taken 3 times a day. That got me through a lot when I was not able to get on antibiotics. And if I had to go through this again without insurance, I would be taking that supplement religiously. Now, to prevent this, obviously, ideally, you don't take steroids, but there's still going to be a number of people willing to take the risk. Number 1 would be do not take compounds without testosterone as a base. I've talked about it in a previous video, but all anabolic steroids, whether it's injectable or oral, suppress your natural testosterone, which in turn will crash estrogen. By taking testosterone alongside other compounds, most people will get a decent conversion to estrogen. Number 2, do not take estrogen blockers for an extended period of time. And if you're a woman, in my opinion, do not ever take estrogen blockers, of course, unless prescribed by your doctor. Number 3, look out for warning signs: sharp bladder twinges, burning with no infection, feeling raw in the pelvis area, feeling pressure or urgency, reoccurring almost UTIs, and relief only when on antibiotics. If you notice any of these signs on PEDs, get off immediately. Also, something interesting that I just wanted to note here is during the middle of all this, when I still didn't know what was causing my pain, I had an EVI test done. This is not sponsored video in any way, by the way. But if you don't know what that is, it's an online microbiome test, and I was just curious because I was like grabbing at all kinds of things of what it could possibly be. So I had this done. Now, there's not a ton of research on the validity of these tests, and research is still very limited on the topic, but I wanted to put my tests here so you guys can see. This was back in the middle of my full cycle here before I got off steroids. As you can see, I had a 92% disruptive score, meaning that according to their test, my microbiome was 92% disrupted. Had that same test done again around July after I started to recover and I was off of all compounds. And I have a 94% protective score, so which is very good according to their website. From the research that we do have, we do know that androgens can disrupt the vaginal microbiome. High androgen levels can completely alter the natural balance of bacteria. So it's just something that I thought was very interesting, and I wanted to show you guys. Because I actually do know some people that have issues with their gut microbiome after taking steroids in a similar way. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. I mean, it's all connected. But I was very lucky. I had good doctors, and I was lucky I was able to afford my medical bills. This is just one more thing you can add to the steroid list of risks that if you're trying to assess whether or not you want to take them, highly consider this. I spent a lot of money figuring this out. Hopefully people can watch this video and not have to go through all the stuff that I went through for almost a year, and they'll have a better idea of what's going on. And if you've taken steroids for an extended period and you've never encountered anything like this, you are extremely lucky. As we know, not everyone gets the same side effects when they take steroids. That's why this stuff should never be taken lightly. So if you're using PEDs, please monitor your symptoms. So I hope that this helps somebody out there, and I hope that maybe this clears some things up for people that I know personally, a couple people that are currently dealing with this and are in the midst of it, and hopefully this can help somebody out there. And that's it for this video, so I will see you on the next one, guys.
Hydronephrosis.
Hydronephrosis. Nephrosis. Jesus Christ.